Hello there and welcome back to another video. Now this is on the old setup because our roof is still being done at the moment and it is far too noisy up there at the moment to be able to record upstairs. So we're going to be doing it in the kitchen like old school style, and I'm just going to read some stuff off the iPad and stuff like that. I can't actually get it on screen for you, but I will put it onto, I'll read it out anyway, stuff like that. So what we're going to look at first is tweets about Jurgen Klopp's press conference. That he's just completing at the moment, and it's just about availability of players and such like that. So we'll go through. Let me know what you think in the comments below about this game, Liverpool versus Chelsea. Massive game, massive game. My God, it's a huge game. We're right next to each other in the table as well, separated by a point, I believe it is. And it could be a really big week for us in terms of like maybe a top 4 run or whatever it could be. But let's not get ahead of ourselves just yet. Let me know what you think in the comments below. So, Klopp confirms that Alisson is going to be able to return against Chelsea. Obviously missing the last game against Sheffield United due to the unfortunate and really tragic passing of his father as well. So it'll be nice. It'll be good to see Alisson back between the sticks as well. That'll be really, really good. Fabinho has had 5 or 6 sessions in his leg and is ready for the squad, which is just fantastic news. Jota has apparently had a little stomach issue, so they're going to monitor and assess him ahead of playing tomorrow night, whether he'll play or not. Most likely, if he is available to play, it sounds like they're preparing him to be on the bench to start with, or something like that. Maybe not as a starting player. So that's good news, though. That's some pretty good news. That at least, if Jota can be on the bench, Fabinho can come back in as well. That could be really, really big. We've had Naby Keita come back, James Milner come back as well. Having these players come back in, it can only be good things for us. It can only, having the availability of these players for however long that we have them available is just going to be really, really something quite big for us. So I'm quite happy about that, to be honest. Klopp gets asked about the race for the top 4, and he says, "A week ago we were out. Now we are around again. The job is clear. We have to win as many football games as possible." And to echo that, it's something that I've said in videos, recently, is that we just have to take things a game at a time, one step at a time, keep building. Look at the first game that's in front of you, which is Chelsea, and then after that game is done, we can then go and look at Fulham, and then after Fulham's done, we go on to the next match, and so on, and so on, and so on. I think there's 13 games of the season left for us, which is 39 points. A maximum of 39 points to play for anyway. You just have to go game by game and have to see, not focus on like above you, how are West Ham doing, how are Leicester doing, how are Chelsea doing, all this sort of stuff. We can't really focus on that. We just got to focus on ourselves, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we can pick up the points that we need. And, as I say, that'd be absolutely fantastic if we can do that. He gets asked about what Fabinho's position could be, centre-back or midfield. He says both is possible. If we could find a way to put Fabinho back in midfield in some games, it would be useful. Now, I like that. I would push much more for Fabinho being put back into midfield, because while we do okay in midfield, that presence of what Fabinho brings to a midfield is just so, you miss it so much. You really, really do. We miss it so much. So to have him and his qualities back in midfield with a partnership of either Nat Phillips and Kabak or Ben Davies or something like that, if that could be done, I'm a massive fan of it, and I would absolutely love it if we could have an actual defensive midfielder back into midfield. It would be absolutely fantastic. It really, really would be. Now, they start talking about the Klopp. He gets asked about Brazil or Portuguese players going to red zone countries, so this must be for upcoming internationals. And I think red zone countries means like countries that are suffering from COVID-19 and maybe don't have like the bubbles or whatever that we have over here. And if we remember rightly, I think the only issues really happened for the Premier League clubs, and also in England as well, concerning like football. The issues only really started happening after the last set of internationals, where people were going out to different countries that maybe weren't, like European countries, and or as it says here, red zone countries and stuff like that. They don't have the necessary measures or whatever, and then they have to come back and quarantine and stuff like that, and then test and you have to test negative as well. It could throw up an absolute like massive curveball, a spanner in the works for a lot of teams, including us. Obviously, we've got Brazilian players, Firmino, Alisson, Fabinho as well. Hopefully, I'm not missing anyone there. I don't think I am. And then you've got Jota as well, who obviously has now returned to fitness. Portugal would probably want to use him as well. It creates a whole thing. What Klopp says is, yes, we are concerned. Whenever something happened in recent months, it was when somebody left the bubble. So left like the bubble that we had. This is a time when you cannot make everybody happy. The players are paid by the clubs. We have to be the first priority. Everybody agrees we cannot let players go, then have to quarantine for 10 days in a hotel when they come back. And I agree with that, to be fair. I don't think there's anything to be disagreed with there. A player, while being called up for your native land, shall we say, whether you're called up for England, Portugal, Brazil, the Netherlands, whoever it might be, is a huge honour. And apparently they have some, like, if you're called up, you have to go. Surely the clubs have to come first because they are the ones that are financing the players, paying the players, everything like that. Surely the clubs and their concerns should come first, which is how I feel. Even if it was like English players and like for the England national team, the England national team is a very, very distant second to Liverpool for me. And some people might not agree with that, but that's just how I feel anyway. But we're going to move on anyway. Hopefully, fingers crossed, whenever that next international comes up, because I don't actually know when it is, fingers crossed we can have as much of, an unaffected time as possible. Now, I want to look quickly at Chelsea, because Chelsea this season have had two managers. One was Frank Lampard and the other is Thomas Tuchel. Now, Thomas Tuchel took over a little bit ago, and I can't exactly remember when it was. But in their last 10 games, they have won 7 and drawn 3. So they've actually picked up a great deal of form under Thomas Tuchel. They've actually been like pretty good, like beating Atletico Madrid in the Champions League as well. Doing a 1-0 on Atletico Madrid is actually quite something, to be honest. They've beaten Newcastle. They beat Barnsley in the FA Cup. They beat Sheffield United, they beat Tottenham, they beat Burnley, and then we go and look at the draws that they've had recently as well. Drew against Wolves, they drew against Southampton, and drew against Manchester United at the weekend as well, which wasn't a very entertaining game or anything like that, to be honest. One thing that is noticeable with Chelsea at the moment is that they don't seem to be scoring a great amount of goals. The most goals that they've scored in a game is 3 recently, which was the 24th of January against Luton. They scored 3 goals. It was 3-1. Other than that, it has been maybe 0-0, 2-0, 1-0, 2-1, 1-0, 2-0, 1-1. They haven't been scoring a great amount of goals as it stands right now. And the predicted lineup against Liverpool, so the predicted lineup for them has them set up in a 3-4-2-1. So it has Mendy in goal, Christensen as Piliqueta, and Rudiger as your defence. Whether this is accurate or not, it's just from what is on here, not from what I put together. Reece James, Jorginho, Kovacic, completely butchered that one, I apologise, Alonso, and then Timo Werner, Mason Mount, and Tammy Abraham. Now, whether that's accurate or not, I have no idea. I still question why Timo Werner is getting used on like a wide forward sort of position instead of an out-and-out striker, but they have to accommodate and use the players like Tammy Abraham and Olivier Giroud as well. Who knows? If they go with, because I genuinely hope they don't go with Olivier Giroud, because Olivier Giroud always somehow comes up with a way to score against us. He just does. He just does, and it's really annoying. It really is annoying. So they've been on a good run. They're not necessarily scoring a great amount of goals, but they do create chances, and they look defensively a lot better at the moment as well. And I think where they are in the table right now, which is 5th, 1 point above us. We're in 6th at the moment. They've got a better goal difference than us as it stands right now. And they've just, they've picked up really, really well since Frank Lampard left. And I think, I might be wrong here, but Frank Lampard may have left them in like 9th or something like that. Could be wrong, maybe not that low down. And they've been brought back up, I think maybe as high as 4th at some point. They've dropped back down to 5th at the moment, but the league is up and down all over the place anyway. Now, our predicted lineup from SofaScore is Alisson in goal, yes. Trent Alexander-Arnold, Ozan Kabak, Andy Robertson, and Fabinho at centre-back. Now, for me, I'm having Nat Phillips in there. I'm putting Nat Phillips in there because I think he's played well for Liverpool. And even though Fabinho has come back and he's ready to go, I want Fabinho in that midfield. Let's move on to that midfield. Now, the only problem that you might think or we might have, Fabinho hasn't played in midfield for a long time, maybe like 4 or 5 months or so. Would it be an issue for him playing in midfield? I don't personally think it would be. He's a world-class player. He's got world-class qualities, and playing as a centre-back might actually help him defensively as well. So, having him as that like CDM, central defensive midfielder, or wherever he might play, he can drop back in to like the back line as well. I think I've said this in a video before. You can have Robbo and Trent going up the sidelines, and then if we get counted on, then you could have Nat Phillips, Kabak, and Fabinho sort of drop back in to help, any counter-attacks that might happen. Counter-attacks will happen. They definitely will, especially with an outlet like Timo Werner. Whether he's been scoring goals or not, he is one of the quickest players in the Premier League. And whether they have some of their other players, their fast players like a Pulisic, a Callum Hudson-Odoi, if they have any of these sorts of players available, they will be a threat. No doubt, absolutely no doubt. So maybe having Fabinho into midfield could help us win the ball back in midfield, control the midfield a little bit more. But also, if we do get caught, we can drop back and almost have like 3 centre-backs just while we're being countered. And then if we can get control of the ball again, we can move back out. So Fabinho, for me, is back in midfield. Curtis Jones in midfield as well. And I'm torn a little bit on whether it be Thiago or Milner. Obviously, we could have different options. You could also still put Gini Wijnaldum in there. You could also put Naby Keita in there as well. Naby Keita is someone that I'd probably want to work from the bench just because he's just come back from an injury. It was good that he got 10 minutes against Sheffield United, but you maybe want to build that game time up just a little bit more so that you don't risk him going back out injured or anything like that, because he's got very good quality on the ball. And if you can get him for 90 minutes playing fit week in, week out, it would be absolutely fantastic for us. But for me, Fabinho, Curtis Jones needs to play, in my opinion. I felt that he's really starting to grow and mature in midfield at the moment. I think he's getting he's feeling good about himself as well, and a really well taken goal against Sheffield United as well. And then that third spot in midfield, it could either be Thiago, Gini Wijnaldum, or Naby Keita. Probably for this game, I'm going to go with Thiago, and whether it makes a difference or not, his first appearance for Liverpool was against Chelsea, and he played very, very well, helped us control midfield. And this is where you could get a good balance and contrast between having Fabinho and Thiago in the same midfield setting. We know what Thiago brings, we know what Fabinho brings. They both bring almost polar opposite sort of qualities, but could work so well together. Fabinho doing all of really good defensive work, winning the ball back, that aerial presence that we haven't really had in midfield could make such a difference and allow someone like Thiago to do what he does with the ball. That vision, the passing vision that he has as well. But hey, whatever happens, and if Naby Keita gets picked, or if Gini Wijnaldum gets picked, or even Oxlade-Chamberlain makes an appearance or something like that, I'm all for it. We've got options. We can start using them as well. Now, into the front line, as I said before, Jurgen Klopp is basically sort of saying that Jota won't really be starting the game, but we've seen curveballs before. He could indeed maybe start the game. If anything, he'd be a great impact from the bench as well, getting back in maybe like 30, 20 minutes, 25 minutes towards the end of the game, depending on how it is, how the game is, is it going to be in our favour? Is it in Chelsea's favour? Whichever it might be, it'd be good to see him regardless of that. it's a no-brainer, really. It's going to be Mohamed Salah, Bobby Firmino, and Sadio Mane, isn't it? Really, I'd be surprised if any of them dropped out for like Shaqiri or something like that, but it could happen. But that's what I'm going with there. And I think with the lineup that we picked here, with Nat Phillips in the back line, partnering Ozan Kabak, Fabinho into the midfield with either Thiago, Gini Wijnaldum, Naby Keita, Curtis Jones, Milner, Oxlade-Chamberlain, whoever it might be, I think we've got the qualities to get a good result here and build upon what we did against Sheffield United. Now, also have to recognise that it was against Sheffield United. We knew that they were going to set up quite difficult, and it was a difficult game. They pressure the ball and pressure the opposition really, really well, but they are 20th in the league for a reason. These guys are above us. We all want us to go out there and get the win, because you get the win against Chelsea, puts us in a better position by the end of the week against Fulham, possibly to bounce ourselves into the top four above West Ham. Obviously, we need West Ham's results to go in our favour as well, for them to either drop points or lose games. We don't know if that's going to happen. We'll wait and see what happens. But I feel that we've got very, very good potential here to get a good result. And I really do believe it, because we have to believe it. Got to believe in the team. The options that we're getting back as well. Okay, we know we're not getting Van Dijk, we're not getting Gomez back. We absolutely know that, or even Joel Matip. Fine. But what we can work with is fantastic, in my opinion. All right, Kabak, still very raw, will still make mistakes. And against someone like, an Olivier Giroud, a Tammy Abraham, a Mason Mount, a Timo Werner, those mistakes will get much more punished than they were against Sheffield United. Totally recognise that, and that's understandable. That would be, why I would still like him to partner Nat Phillips, because I want him to grow, mature, start, play against these really top level players that he probably would have played against before. He definitely would have played against, I think, anyway, may have played against Timo Werner while he was at Leipzig. But I also want to start seeing Fabinho back into midfield. I really, really do. And this is a really big game. Really, really big game. We look at the table here. We've got 12 games of the Premier League season left. We played 26, so there's 12 games left. I've got that one wrong. We've got 36 points to play for. So, we are 1 point behind Chelsea, 2 points behind West Ham. West Ham are the team that are in fourth position right now. We have a better goal difference than West Ham, a lesser goal difference over Chelsea, but we could definitely get a good result against Chelsea. But it is going to be very, 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 very difficult, in my opinion. I think it's going to be one of our most difficult fixtures that we have coming up anyway. So what am I going for against Chelsea? I don't know if we'll get a clean sheet. I really don't. I'm not entirely sure how open Chelsea play. I'll be totally honest with you. I've caught a couple of Chelsea's games recently, but I'm not going to go out there and lie and say I've watched every single one of their games and stuff like that and how tight they keep it or everything. What is evidence to see is that they look a little bit more solid as a unit, and I think they could end up being a little bit difficult to break down. Whether they're willing to sit back against us, if they want to come out and attack us, then it'll open the game up a little bit more, and both teams will be susceptible to being scored on. Let's be honest. I hate saying it. I really do hate saying it, honestly. I'm going to go for 2-1 Liverpool. I want to say 2-0. I really do. I want to say 2-0 and be confident in that 2-0. But I do think that we'll concede. I just think that we will. I think that, all right, Sheffield United was a great result, fantastic result, and it was really, really good. But I just think that we're going to concede. I just hope that we keep the score down and that we can get the goals ourselves. And for me, that translates into being a 2-1 prediction. But my God, 2-1 predictions is just my thing this year. I've predicted 2-1 so many times, it's unreal. But that is what I'm going for, and I'm pulling for a Liverpool victory here. Fingers crossed that we can do it. I'm going to get out of here for now. Thank you ever so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed it, please do feel free to like it and subscribe if you're new around here. Thank you ever so much. Once again, do take care of yourselves. Have a good day, and I'll catch you later.